First story. I neglected my younger daughter, allowed the older one to abuse her, and then denied the promised walking down the aisle and dance at my younger daughter's wedding to protect my older daughter's feelings, only to perform them at my older daughter's rushed wedding. Now my younger daughter has abandoned me, and I'm regretting my actions. I 56M have two daughters, Emily 34 and Jenna 33. They were close when they were kids, not inseparable, but the kind of sisters who had their own inside jokes, their own games, and their weird little dance routines in the living room, that kind of thing. But once they hit their teens, something changed. Emily, the older one, started pulling away from Jenna around high school. It was a slow drift that turned into something sharper over time. Jenna always seemed to have things fall into place: friends, grades, opportunities. Emily was smart too, but she had to grind for every beat. Jenna was the one teachers raved about. She got into all the clubs. She had a close-knit group of friends and a boyfriend in her junior year who stuck around through college. Emily struggled to find that. I don't think Jenna ever flaunted anything, but Emily saw everything as a comparison. And unfortunately, a lot of family situations fed into that, even unintentionally. One time, we were all at a family BBQ when Emily overheard my sister jokingly tell Jenna she was going places. Emily didn't say anything then, but on the way home she snapped at us in the car, saying we always treated Jenna like the golden child. My wife and I were stunned. That comment lived in the air for months. By the time college decisions came around, things hit a boiling point. Emily got into a few schools, but didn't get the financial aid she hoped for. She took out loans and ended up at a state college that she never seemed excited about. She told us she only chose it because she didn't want to stay home and feel like a failure. Jenna, on the other hand, got a full ride to Emily's top choice. We didn't even know it was her top pick until she broke down crying the day Jenna announced her acceptance. Emily told us Jenna stole her life, that she did it on purpose. Jenna looked blindsided. She genuinely hadn't known. That day, something broke between them permanently. They barely spoke after that. We tried family therapy. Emily refused. She said there was nothing to fix because Jenna had already won. Jenna tried a few times to reconnect, invited her out for coffee, texted her updates about school, and even sent her a birthday card one year. Emily ignored it all. At some point, Jenna stopped trying. The silence between them just became the norm. Still, I did my best to stay present in both their lives. Jenna didn't badmouth Emily, and Emily never explicitly asked me to cut Jenna off. I kept things separate. As long as I didn't bring one up in front of the other, things stayed manageable. Emily's adult life hasn't been easy. She had a rough breakup in her mid-20s that left her emotionally drained. She bounced between jobs, fell into debt, and then got pregnant unexpectedly at 30. The father is barely in the picture. There's some child support, but he's inconsistent and disinterested. Now she's raising a 3-year-old son, Leo, mostly on her own. My wife and I help her when we can. We buy groceries, take Leo on weekends, and help cover small bills. Emily's always stressed, usually tired, and often short on patience. She has no real village besides us. Jenna, meanwhile, has built a pretty solid life. She graduated debt-free, built a strong career in tech, and now lives in another state with her long-term boyfriend. She visits a couple of times a year, always brings thoughtful gifts, and calls on holidays. She and I have a great relationship. She's always been very upfront about not wanting kids, not in a rude way, just a personal choice she made early on. That brings us to this past year. Jenna got engaged. Her boyfriend proposed during a trip to the coast, and she called me that night beaming. She told me she wanted to plan a 2022 wedding, something small but meaningful, and she asked if I would walk her down the aisle. I can't explain how much that meant to me. She sounded so happy. After everything, the silence between the girls, the years of walking that tightrope, hearing her ask me to be part of her day like that genuinely broke me a little. I said yes on the spot. I even teared up, which I don't do often. For a couple of weeks, I was just quietly excited. My wife and I started talking about travel plans, what kind of suit I should wear, and how we'd make a vacation out of it. I didn't mention it to Emily, not because I was hiding it, but because I knew how it would land. But somehow she found out. I'm guessing she overheard something on the phone or saw something on social media Jenna doesn't post often. But who knows? Anyway, one evening, Emily shows up at our house unannounced. She walked in looking exhausted. She didn't even sit down at first. Just stood in the entryway and stared at me for a few seconds before saying, "So you're walking Jenna down the aisle?" It wasn't accusatory at first, more like she was trying to hold it together. I didn't lie. I said yes, that she had asked me, and I said yes. I told her I loved both of them, and this was her moment, and I was proud to be part of it. That's when she started crying. Not just quiet tears, but a full collapse. She kept saying she always thought she'd be the first to get married, that she dreamed about it when she was younger, that even though her life didn't go how she hoped, she thought that one thing would still happen, that she'd be the first daughter I gave away. I tried to comfort her. I told her this didn't take anything away from whatever wedding she might have someday, that I'd be just as honored. I reminded her that her path wasn't over, she could still have whatever she wanted in life. But she didn't want to hear it. She said it wasn't fair, that Jenna already had everything. The good school, the good job, the perfect life, and now she was taking this too. I told her this wasn't a competition. I reminded her that Jenna had been kind, had tried to reconnect, and had never rubbed anything in her face. That's when she changed tones entirely, and told me that if I cared about her and Leo, I'd say no to Jenna. She said I shouldn't walk Jenna down the aisle. I shouldn't do a father-daughter dance. That I needed to tell Jenna I'd still be at the wedding, but wouldn't do those parts because it should have been her first. I told her no. It didn't make sense to punish Jenna for something she didn't cause. Jenna wasn't getting married at her. She just wanted her dad to be part of her wedding. That's it. That's when Emily threatened to cut me and my wife off. Said if I went through with it, she'd stop letting us see Leo. She didn't say it in passing. She stared straight at me and said, "You walk her down the aisle, and you don't see me or Leo again." I wish I could say I called her bluff right there. But I didn't. I couldn't. Emily's been unstable for years. She barely gets by month to month. She's overwhelmed and alone, and Leo is 3. He doesn't have cousins. No father figure. No stable routine outside of our house. We're the ones who take him to the park, buy him new shoes when his old ones are falling apart, and keep extra clothes here because Emily always forgets to pack them. He's safe here. He's happy here. And I couldn't let him lose that because Emily decided to make a wedding into another scoreboard. So I made a bad call, or what felt like the least awful option. I sat down with Jenna the next week. I told her the truth. I didn't dress it up. I told her Emily found out and gave me an ultimatum. That I wasn't going to stop supporting her or helping her plan the wedding. I wasn't pulling out. I just couldn't do the walk or the dance if it meant losing Leo. I told her I hoped there was still time to talk Emily down. That maybe Emily would cool off and come around. But if she didn't, I'd have to leave those 2 moments out and still be there for everything else. Jenna didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then she laughed. It wasn't bitter or loud, just one of those short laughs people do when they've heard something unbelievable. She told me not to worry about it. That she wouldn't need to make any adjustments because I wasn't invited anymore. I didn't even process it right away. I thought she was just upset and talking in the moment. But then she said, "If she can hold Leo over your head once, she'll do it again. And you just showed her it works." That stung. But I couldn't argue with it. She told me she didn't want me involved in anything. She said I made my choice, and she hoped it was worth it. I asked her if she could at least understand that this wasn't about choosing between them, it was about making sure Leo didn't suffer, because his mom can't handle her resentment. She didn't budge. It's been a few weeks now. I still see Leo regularly. Emily acts like nothing happened. She brings him over, accepts help, and complains about money. There hasn't been a single follow-up conversation from her about the wedding. As far as she's concerned, it's over. Jenna, on the other hand, hasn't called or responded to any of my texts since that conversation. I saw a few photos online someone else walked her down the aisle. She looked happy. My name wasn't mentioned. I don't blame her for being hurt. I don't blame her for stepping back. But part of me can't shake the feeling that she's punishing me for not cutting off a 3-year-old. I've tried to play this back every way. If I had said no to Emily and she had followed through, Leo would be gone from our lives. She's impulsive enough to do it. And without our support, Leo's life gets worse fast. Not just financially, but emotionally too. He needs routine. He needs stability. If that means I had to give up a dance and a walk, I thought it was a trade I could live with. But Jenna's reaction made it clear she sees it as a betrayal. Like I failed some invisible test of loyalty. And maybe I did. But I didn't do it to protect Emily. I did it for Leo. So here I am. I lost one daughter's wedding over the other daughter's grudge. I kept a relationship with my grandson. But it cost me my relationship with the one kid who's never asked me for anything, never lashed out, and never made me choose. My wife supports me. She said she would have made the same choice for Leo. But she also understands why Jenna cut me out. So I'm stuck wondering now if I completely misjudged this. Was I wrong to expect Jenna, who's always been the reasonable one, to understand that I wasn't choosing Emily over her? Was I wrong to think Leo's well-being was more important than a symbolic moment at a wedding? Was it unfair of me to ask Jenna to carry the weight of being the more stable daughter yet again? Ada? Comments. Comment 1. Jenna got fed up with being the fallback daughter. That's what this boils down to. She didn't ask for the favorite treatment. She just didn't constantly implode every time life didn't go her way. And because of that, you treated her like she could take a hit every time Emily melted down. And yeah, I get why Leo mattered here. But let's not pretend this is the first time Emily pulled emotional blackmail. You said she never asked you to pick sides, she just forced you into corners, where picking Jenna meant losing Emily. So you went quiet. For years. That silence added up. Jenna saw it. She lived in it. And when she finally asked for something meaningful, just a moment Emily snapped her fingers, and you folded. Doesn't matter why. To Jenna, that probably felt like proof she was always second in line. No matter how stable or kind or patient she was. Can't blame her for checking out after that. Comment 2. Emily's been twisting the knife since high school. She stole my life. Come on. Jenna worked her arse off, and Emily couldn't handle the comparison. That jealousy turned into a full-time personality. She didn't just drift away. She torched the bridge every chance she got. Then she pops in and decides Jenna's wedding something she has no claim to should be put on hold until her imaginary dream wedding gets to happen first. That's the dumbest SHT I've ever heard. And you entertained it. Worse, you justified it. Jenna didn't cut you off because of one dance or walk. She cut you off because she watched you let her lifelong bully take one last swing, and you flinched. She probably realized it wasn't going to stop, that being the mature one just meant she'd keep getting left out of her own damn life. Leo's a victim in this. But he's not the only one. You treated Jenna like a backup plan her whole life, and then acted surprised when she finally said, "Forget it." Comment 3. You didn't choose Leo. You chose Emily. Leo's too young to know what's going on. He's not holding anyone hostage. His mom is. She handed you a loaded threat, and you folded. Then wrapped it up like it was about protecting your grandson. That kid's going to grow up watching his mom manipulate everyone around her, including her father. And you're helping set that pattern. Jenna asked for one thing. One day. After years of walking on eggshells, while you kept playing middleman. She didn't demand you cut Emily out. She didn't make you pick a favorite. She asked you to show up for her like a father. And you told her, "Sorry, your sister might throw a tantrum and take her kid, so I can't. If Emily ever gets married, I guarantee she'll demand the same thing she just forced you to deny Jenna. And I'm guessing you'll say yes then too. Because at the end of the day, the loudest voice in the room always gets your loyalty." Comment 4. You let Emily rewrite your whole life script. She wrecked her relationship with her sister because she couldn't handle not being the center of everything. And you let her rewrite the rules of a wedding she isn't even part of. And the messed up part. Jenna's been watching this play out her entire life. She saw Emily lash out, accuse, withdraw, and sabotage. And she watched you stay quiet every time. You think this was about a wedding aisle and a song? It was the last straw in a lifetime of being the okay daughter who always had to wait her turn until Emily stopped being mad. You're right about one thing. Leo probably is your only grandkid. But you didn't lose Jenna because of that. You lost her because she finally realized she was only valued until someone else needed something more. Update. After Jenna uninvited me from her wedding, things didn't pause or cool off like I hoped. They accelerated. I didn't push back publicly. I didn't argue with family members. I didn't correct rumors. I just went quiet, assuming that staying out of the spotlight would keep things from getting worse. That was a mistake. A few weeks after Jenna's wedding, a cousin posted photos and congratulated her, tagging several relatives. Comments started popping up asking why I wasn't there. Emily reached out to that cousin directly and told her a version of the story that painted Jenna as cold and me as a father, trying to make amends after years of neglect. None of it was true. I saw the comments. I said nothing. I told myself correcting it would just reignite everything. That silence cost me. A few relatives stopped calling. One aunt asked my wife outright what kind of father skips his daughter's wedding. I didn't defend myself then either. I just absorbed it. Around the same time, Emily's financial situation worsened. She lost another job and was behind on rent. My wife and I helped again. Then again. Then I co-signed a short-term loan after she assured me it would be temporary. I didn't tell Jenna. I didn't tell most of the family. I was already stretched thin and didn't have the emotional energy to explain yet another emergency. Emily grew bolder after that. Holidays became conditional. If Jenna's name came up, Emily would leave with Leo early. If I looked distracted or quiet, she accused me of thinking about Jenna. At one point, she sat me down and told me she needed to know I was fully present with her family now. She said if I kept acting sad over losing Jenna, she'd move out of state because she couldn't raise Leo around negativity. That wasn't a hypothetical. She had already looked into moving somewhere cheaper and mentioned schools and childcare options. I believed her. So I stopped showing it. When my wife noticed how withdrawn I was and asked about Jenna, I brushed it off. When family brought her up, I shut it down. I told myself this was temporary, that if I just stabilized things for Emily, I could circle back to Jenna later. Then Jenna won an industry award. A major one. It was announced online and picked up by a professional publication. She didn't reach out. I found out the same way strangers did. I stared at the article for a long time, thinking about how I used to be the first person she called with news like that. That night, I was quiet at dinner. Emily noticed immediately. She accused me of making her feel small on purpose. She told me if I couldn't move on from Jenna's life, she would move Leo out of state, and I would see him when she felt safe bringing him back. I apologized. I hated myself for it, but I apologized. The irony is that despite all this, I still don't get to make any real decisions about Leo. I pick him up from daycare more than Emily does now because of her schedule. My wife covers preschool drop-offs. We buy clothes, handle doctor appointments, and plan meals. But when I suggest routine or structure, or even basic boundaries for him, Emily shuts it down. She reminds me that I'm not his parent. There was an incident where Leo started referring to Jenna as the aunt who doesn't like us. He's 4. He didn't invent that. I tried to talk to Emily about watching how she speaks around him. She told me I was accusing her of being a bad mother and threatened to limit visits again. I dropped it. Months after the wedding, I sent Jenna a message. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a defense. It was just honesty that I missed her, that losing her from my life hurt, that I hoped someday we could talk. She replied with one sentence. I needed a dad, not a negotiator. Then she blocked me. Around that time, a cousin told me Jenna had sent a gift and letter to Leo through her, hoping he might know her someday. The cousin asked if she should pass it along. I panicked. I imagined Emily's reaction. I told the cousin not to. Emily later found out anyway and tore the letter up in front of me, saying it was confusing for Leo. I didn't stop her. My wife did not take that well. That night turned into the first real fight we've had in years. She told me I was letting fear dictate every decision, and that it was bleeding into our marriage. She asked me who I was trying to keep happy, and why it was never her or myself. I didn't have an answer. Things came to a head when Emily announced she was engaged. Her first demand was that I walk her down the aisle and do the father-daughter dance. The same thing she insisted I deny Jenna. When I hesitated, she accused me of holding a grudge and reminded me how much I owed her for sticking by family. Then she asked for my grandmother's ring and heirloom that I had originally planned to give to Jenna someday. At that point, something in me cracked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. I just felt empty. I realized I had lost Jenna anyway. I missed her wedding, her celebration, and her accomplishments. I wasn't present for her life because I kept trying to manage Emily's reactions. And it still wasn't enough. I don't get peace. I don't get trust. I don't even get a voice in my grandson's life. My wife has pulled back emotionally. She still helps with Leo, but she has told me plainly that she resents being dragged into this cycle. She said she feels like she's watching me disappear one concession at a time. I'm exhausted. I wake up already tired. I avoid looking at old photos because Jenna is in most of them. I don't know what role I'm supposed to play anymore. I tried to keep everyone together and managed to isolate myself instead. I'm not even certain I could walk Emily down the aisle without it feeling wrong. She won't hear anything that challenges her perspective. Every attempt leads to another threat. Another demand. Another line in the sand. I thought prioritizing a child meant doing the hard thing. I'm starting to wonder if all I did was teach my daughters the wrong lesson and myself that love is earned by compliance. I don't know how to fix any of this. I don't know if it even can be fixed. And I don't know how to live with the fact that the daughter who never asked me for anything is the one I lost. Comments. Comment 1. You sacrificed the daughter who never made you choose. And now you've built a life where every decision is handed to you by the one who does or else. You didn't lose Jenna when she uninvited you. You lost her years ago, the moment you started protecting your access to Leo more than your relationship with her. You just didn't feel it until she finally said, enough. Emily saw it work once, and now she's writing the script. You blink wrong, and she's dangling Leo like bait again. You even admitted you're picking her kid up more than she is. So she gets the help, the money, the heirlooms, the space in your life, and the authority to tell you how you're allowed to feel about your other kid. And the kicker, she still doesn't respect you. Jenna gave you grace. Over and over. Until it cost her too much. She didn't want heirlooms. She didn't want to be the favorite. She just wanted a dad who had a spine when it counted. Comment 2. This feels less like a family dynamic, and more like an addiction cycle. You're not parenting anymore. You're managing crises. You're appeasing the chaos to avoid fallout. And that's turned your relationship with Emily into this toxic performance, where she holds the leash, and you keep pretending you're the one walking her. But you're not. She tells you when to speak, how to feel, and what you're allowed to want. And she's trained you well because now even your wife is watching you fade out. And Leo? Poor kid. He's growing up in this echo chamber, where the person who picks him up from daycare is treated like a butler, and his aunt is described like a cautionary tale. He's not going to stay innocent in that dynamic forever. And he's going to remember who let it happen. You didn't just lose a daughter. You trained her to walk away. And you taught Emily that love means leverage. You're living in a house built on silence, and man, that SHT always collapses. Comment 3. You basically let Emily blackmail you with your grandson. And now she's running the entire operation finances, emotions, who gets to be in your life and how. And the craziest part? You're still not in charge of anything. You're doing childcare, paying her bills, losing your marriage one quiet resentment at a time. And for what? So you could not walk your daughter down the aisle. Not dance with her at her wedding. Not celebrate her award. She's out there living a life. And you're hiding in Emily's basement of emotional hostage situations. And let's not pretend Emily would have stayed gone if you'd stood up to her. She's broke, unstable, and already leeching help. She needs you more than you need proximity to Leo. But you flinched, and she saw it. And now she's pressing harder. You lost Jenna because you backed the wrong horse. Now you're stuck walking on hot coals, while the person who set the fire tells you how lucky you are she hasn't left yet. Update. After my last update, the distance between me and Jenna stayed absolute. No contact, no indirect messages, nothing through relatives. I told myself to respect it. At the same time, Emily's behavior kept drifting further into territory I couldn't explain away. It started with Jenna's work. Emily somehow got it into her head that Jenna's success was artificial, that she had connections she didn't deserve. I later found out Emily reached out to someone loosely connected to Jenna's workplace and hinted at family instability. Jenna's partner caught it immediately and shut it down. That wasn't the end of it. He contacted me directly and told me, in very plain terms, to stop interfering in his partner's life, and to make sure Emily never contacted them again. A restraining order followed shortly after, not against me, but against Emily. Seeing it in writing was surreal. Emily told me it was all exaggerated, that she was only concerned. Jenna's partner sent screenshots. There was no ambiguity. Around the same time, Emily announced her wedding plans were moving forward quickly. She wanted everything handled fast and cheap. I was already exhausted, but I agreed to attend. At that point, I wasn't sure I even wanted to walk her down the aisle or do the dance. But I told myself skipping it would blow things up again. The wedding was a mess. Emily insisted on last-minute changes, shuffled the order of events repeatedly, and spent most of the day monitoring my reactions. I barely made it through the walk. Halfway down the aisle, she stopped and whispered that I looked detached, and that I was embarrassing her. I froze. People noticed. I stepped back and left before the reception started. The dance never happened. She told guests I wasn't feeling well. Later she sent me messages accusing me of ruining her wedding on purpose. A few weeks after that, things unraveled fast. Emily's new partner lost his job. Then she lost hers. Bills piled up. She showed up at my house with Leo and bags, saying they needed to stay temporarily. Something in me shut down. I couldn't do it again. I told her she needed to find another option. She stared at me like I was a stranger, left, and blocked me on everything that night. I didn't chase her. For the first time in years, I didn't. She tried to move out of state again, but it didn't last. They ran out of money within months and came back. She reached out through a relative, asking to talk. I said no. I meant it. She accused me of abandonment. Maybe she's right. I just couldn't survive another cycle of threats, demands, and reactions tied to my access to Leo. It hurt knowing that saying no likely meant losing him completely. That part hasn't stopped hurting. I tried one last time with Jenna. I sent a brief message acknowledging harm, without defending myself or bringing up Emily. She replied politely, distantly. We met once with my wife present. Jenna was calm and composed, already living a life where my absence had been absorbed. Nothing came of it. No fight, no closure, just distance. My wife didn't recover from watching all of this. She told me she was done being collateral damage. She said she loved me, but she couldn't stay in a life defined by chaos. I kept inviting back in. She moved out 2 months later. She still speaks with Jenna occasionally. They get coffee. They talk. It stings in a way I don't have words for. So this is where things stand now. I don't have a relationship with either daughter. I don't see my grandson. My marriage is over. Most extended family keep their distance. And strangely, I don't want to chase anyone anymore. I don't want to fix things by begging. I don't want to fake apologies that would only start the same loop again. I don't want to negotiate affection or access or peace. I know people will say I brought this on myself, and they're probably right. I let fear drive too many decisions. I believed if I just absorbed enough damage, everyone else would stay standing. Instead, everything fell apart anyway. I think I'm going to be alone for a while. Maybe permanently. And right now, that feels easier than reopening wounds that never really healed. I'm not writing this hoping for redemption or absolution. I just need to know if stepping away entirely from the mess, the expectations, the endless emotional bargaining makes me the arsehole. Comments. Comment 1. Emily played you like a damn piano. She figured out early that all she had to do was cry, threaten, and toss Leo in front of the firing line. And you'd fold. Every single time. And when you finally found your spine, it was during her lowest point, not because you saw the pattern, but because you just didn't have the energy anymore. And I feel for Jenna. She got to watch her dad become an emotional employee of her sister's chaos. Her wedding got wrecked, her job got dragged, and instead of defending her, you tried to stay neutral. Neutral doesn't exist when one kid keeps taking swings, and the other gets told to just understand. You didn't just lose everyone. You burned the bridge, then sat on the ashes like it was a choice. Comment 2. You don't get to ask if stepping away now makes you the arsehole. That ship sailed 2 updates ago. You let your granddaughter's childhood get tainted, let your adult daughter's career get sabotaged, and gave your marriage away piece by piece, trying to babysit a grown woman who treated you like a servant with a wallet. And Jenna, she's gone. Not mad, not grieving, just done. She did the one thing Emily never could. She moved the F on. That's what healthy people do when they've been wrung dry. So now you're alone and finally saying, no, cool, that's growth. But it's not redemption. Don't confuse the two. Comment 3. Emily didn't ruin your life. You trained her to. You built the entire family dynamic around shielding her from consequences. The first time she twisted Leo into a bargaining chip, you should have walked. Instead, you treated that threat like a valid negotiation. And Leo watched it work again and again, until Emily didn't even need to try hard anymore. You had a daughter who didn't weaponize her emotions, who didn't beg or guilt or throw her kid in your face, and you handed her pain back to her every time you prioritized the daughter who made your life harder. Then you wonder why Jenna just disappeared. Honestly, I'm impressed she stayed polite. You didn't get pushed away. You got left behind. Second story. My adult stepdaughter stopped calling me mum after her abandoned bio mom showed up again. Now she has shared my adult videos with her in-laws and called me a W for cheating on her father, believing her mom's lies. Now she wants to reconcile, but I don't have the strength to move on that easily. Hello guys. I decided to share my story here and hopefully gather some input on a situation that is causing me some real issues currently. Full story. This will be very long, so bear with me. BTW. I am using fake names in this story. I am a female in my late 30s, 36, and I am married to Josh, 40. He has a daughter, Ella, 18, who still lives at home and is in her first year of university. I have been married to Josh since Ella was 12 years old. She was on good terms with her bio mother until her mother got married and ghosted her and her father when Ella was only 11. It broke her so much that Josh decided to give it more time before Ella and I would meet. Once we got engaged, Josh finally introduced me to Ella, and surprisingly, we clicked right away. We both loved anime and video games, and we would often play video games together and watch different anime together. When my husband and I finally got married, she was a junior bridesmaid, as I wanted her to be a part of the wedding. She was there for the whole process and was very excited for her father and me to be getting married. When Ella turned 14, she finally started calling me Mum, and we were closer than ever. Around 17, her mother came back into her life, and her father agreed to let her see her mother every month. She still called me Mum, but became more distant than she had ever been. At 18, she started calling me by my name. I will not lie, it stung, but despite all that, I still treated her like my daughter and called her my daughter to others. The point of all this is to show you how close we were and how her behavior shifted. About 2 weeks ago, Ella asked me if she could borrow some of my body lotion from my room. I did not think twice about it because she has done that in the past. But this time I noticed she was taking a while to come out of my room. I called her name, and she did not answer, so I checked on her. She looked panicked and just grabbed the lotion off my dresser and rushed out. I thought it was strange and assumed maybe she was stealing my lipsticks or something petty. I got a little annoyed, but brushed it off. A few days later, we were hosting a dinner for New Year's Eve. My husband's parents and my sister were invited over for the countdown. During the countdown, my mother-in-law received a text on her phone and got up from her seat. She whispered into her husband's ear and showed him something on her phone. At first I was confused but not bothered, until my father-in-law called out to my husband and told him to look at his phone. He did, and his face went pale. He immediately started panicking and asked Ella to talk to him in a separate room. Before that could happen, Ella loudly announced, "Did you know that your wife is a W?" My mother-in-law immediately showed me the video and started berating me in front of everyone. My sister tried to de-escalate and defend me, but my stepdaughter kept instigating by telling her grandparents that I was probably cheating on her dad. This made my mother-in-law erupt. They tried to convince my husband that I was definitely cheating and that I was not a good fit for him. My husband already knew about the work I used to do and had my back, which only angered them more. My husband's parents left abruptly after a huge argument, during which my father-in-law called my husband a Kirk. After they left, my sister left shortly after to give us time to sort things out. My husband dropped Ella off at his parents' house for the night, so he could talk to me and cool down. 2 days later, he brought Ella home and talked to her while I was out of the house. He explained that he knew everything about my past and had always been supportive of it. According to him, she realized she had made a huge mistake. She cried and apologized to him and told him that her bio mother told her about my past. At first she did not believe her, until she found the tapes. My husband called me and asked if I wanted to talk to her. But what he did not tell me was that he was next to her and had me on speaker. I ended up saying that I did not feel like I wanted to be near her, and that I did not want to be her mother anymore. She heard everything and started crying on the phone. She told me she was going to stay with her grandparents for a bit until things cooled down. I agreed, and that has been the arrangement up until recently. My in-laws have already started telling people my business and slandering my name because of this, which makes me even more angry at her since she has had every opportunity to correct them, but has not. I know she is only a teenager, but I cannot bring myself to go back to the way things were just because she apologized. Please, a little help would be nice. Am I being harsh? TLDR. My stepdaughter found some of my old spicy tapes from when I was an adult star. After finding them, she sent copies to my husband, my mother, and my father-in-law. My husband already knew I was an adult star in my 20s, but his parents did not. They have since slandered my name to relatives and tried to convince my husband to end our marriage. When my stepdaughter realized that my husband already knew about my past, she apologized and is now trying to reconcile. However, after the things she said to me and the damage she caused, I cannot bring myself to forgive her or go back to the way things were. Would I be the arsehole if I did not forgive her? Edit. I absolutely did not expect this many comments so quickly. Thank you for all the nice replies, and to those who actually want to give their thoughts and genuine advice. I'm sorry if I can't reply to all the comments. I'm reading them all and trying to reply to certain comments in order to give clarifications. But I want to address some things here instead to clear up any confusion. I was 20 when I created my first movie. Yes, DVDs existed back then. I'm confused on how some people think DVD adultery didn't exist in 2010. Ella was able to find the adultery online, using the info on the DVD. No, I don't know the details on how she did it. Although realistically, it shouldn't be hard to find, as I myself have searched for my content and have found it easily. Her father told me that she had screen recorded one of the videos. I kept the DVDs because I was proud of my content at one point. And my husband had requested that I keep some of the ones he liked. I had never had the thought that my stepdaughter would snoop through my things, so no, I did not burn it or hide it. No, this is not a karma farm or whatever some are saying. If you don't want to believe the post, you can scroll. I don't even know what karma does. But that's besides the point, lol. I will not be posting links to my old movies. I am married and couldn't care less if you believe my post. I do not hate my stepdaughter. I just need time to process things. I am still a human being. My stepdaughter's bio mom is friends with my ex-boyfriend, and he was very involved at that point in my life. That's how she knows about my past. My husband did not tell her. She found out from a third party. Josh and I were dating when Ella's mother ghosted my husband and stopped visiting Ella. Yes, she was 11. We dated for about 2 years before we got engaged. We were engaged for 1 year. During that time, my friends and I got really into Naruto and were binging the show. We were close pre-wedding. We clicked instantly is a bit of an exaggeration, but she warmed up to me pretty quickly after she and I found out about our shared interest. I will try to update as soon as possible, but I probably will take some time to actually take the advice in the comments. And yes, therapy is an option. Comments. Comment 1. NTA, you are not being harsh. An 18-year-old should know better and deserves the harsh consequences of sharing such personal information and videos in the manner that she did. She wanted to disrupt and cause embarrassment. Comment 2. Ella is 18. This wasn't an act by someone too young to know the likely consequences. Her grandparents can darn well keep her, if I had any say in the matter. But that would be turned back on you. NTA for anything you decide is best about this. Comment 3. NTA. She wanted to hurt you. She thought you were cheating on her dad, and she had every intention of causing you harm. Everything she did intentionally, with malice. She tried and succeeded in causing you harm. Why the hell would you want her around ever again? She is an adult. She knows what she did, and that's exactly why she did it. She knew it would ruin your life. This isn't some innocent kid who didn't realize the depths of her actions. She fully realized them and committed to them specifically because the consequences would be so terrible for you. She does not deserve forgiveness. Update. Hello guys, this might not be the update some of you were hoping for, but it is probably the one most of you expected. This is extremely long, so feel free to skip the context and get straight into the update. Before I start the update, I want to give some context about Ella's mother and my relationship with her. For the sake of the post and convenience, I will call Ella's mother Lori. Context. Lori and I are not on good terms. Back when Lori and Josh were together, I was actually friends with Josh. We never saw each other romantically at the time, and our relationship was completely platonic. After a while, Lori started to feel bothered by my friendship with Josh. Instead of talking to me directly, she started asking around about me. She eventually got information through my ex-boyfriend, and once she found out I was a former adult actress, she flipped out. She accused me of trying to seduce her boyfriend, and called me a W and a homewrecker, trashing me to some of Josh's and my mutual friends. Josh eventually broke up with her after she started threatening me with violence, and they became single co-parents to Ella. And just to clarify, I never had an affair with Josh. Around 2014 to 2015, Lori started dating a new guy. Not long after, she quickly moved in with him, exposing Ella to her new boyfriend against Josh's wishes. Lori's boyfriend was extremely sketchy, and because of that, Josh constantly argued with her about Ella's safety around him. Josh would often threaten to keep Ella away from Lori, and after each threat, Josh would not hear back from Lori for weeks, despite Ella's eagerness to see her mom. Even after all the boundaries Lori crossed, Josh stayed faithful to his promise not to introduce me to Ella until we were engaged. When we finally did meet, Ella and I became close. This angered Lori, as she did not want a homewrecker in her daughter's life. She also resented the fact that Josh proposed to me after 2 years of dating, while he never proposed to her during all their years together. One day, while picking Ella up from our home, she started an argument with Josh. The argument quickly turned violent, and she smacked him in the face. Josh snapped and told her she was not allowed to come to his house again, or he would call the police. Lori left angrily and decided to leave Ella at our house instead of picking her up as planned. When Josh tried to contact her later, he realized he was blocked everywhere. Months later, he found out that she had secretly married her sketchy boyfriend without informing anyone. Even though Josh's messages would not go through, Ella would sometimes reach out to her mother and actually get a response. Despite that, her mother never made an effort to meet with her until 2024, which is when my husband started setting up dates so that her mother could see her again. Now that the context is out of the way, here is what happened recently. Updates. My husband spoke to Lori about her role in all of this. Many commenters pointed out that Ella was being influenced by her mother, which turned out to be true. Lori admitted to my husband that she told Ella I was cheating on him. She also told Ella about my past to sell the idea that I sleep around a lot. My husband was incredibly upset and called her miserable and insecure. He apparently unleashed hell on her, and she blocked him once again. My stepdaughter is living at home again. She showed up at our door with a handwritten note apologizing to me for everything. Even though I was still very hurt about her New Year's stunt, I could not help but feel a bittersweet emotion that made me cry hard. In the note, she talked about all the feelings she had kept in for so long. She wrote about how she cried when she found out I was cheating on her dad. She wrote about how she mourned the end of our relationship and how upset she was for her father, going on about how she was stupid to believe her mother. She also wrote that she always loved me, but felt like, with her mother in her life, she was forced to choose. Even though she thought of me as her real mother at heart, she felt like she should side with her mom because she is blood. I asked her to explain the note to me, and together with my husband, we sat down and talked. It was extremely emotional for all of us, and even my husband started tearing up. Being able to finally cry and tell her how deeply her distance hurt me felt relieving. It went better than I imagined, and I no longer felt anger towards her. I still had some leftover resentment, and I will not pretend otherwise, but I felt good about the conversation. She stayed the night, and the next morning, things were a little awkward but tolerable. After a day of awkwardness, we had another conversation about her mother. She told me she did not want to cut her mother off completely, but she planned to distance herself for a while. I brought up family therapy, as some of you suggested, but she told me it was not something she was interested in, which I respected. We are currently on awkward but civil speaking terms. I am not sure things will ever be the same, but I am optimistic that they could improve. I reached out to Josh's parents this morning with Josh beside me on the phone. They apologized in a strange, half-hearted way. They said they do not agree with my past, but they did apologize for saying I was cheating on my husband. Josh's dad also apologized to Josh for using hurtful words towards him. They never apologized for calling me degrading names, which irritated me, but for now, I will take it as a win. A lot of comments were bashing Josh for how he handled the phone call. I wasn't extremely upset about it before, but after reading a lot of comments, I did kind of realize what a jerk move it was. I spoke to him about it, and he apologized. He thought it would be wise to let Ella hear the consequences of her actions, but did not expect me to say I didn't want to be her mother anymore. I forgave him, as he did what he thought was best at the time, and honestly, I had also made a huge mistake by saying I didn't want to be Ella's mother anymore. I signed up for the role when I got married to her father. So I don't, and will not hold that brief moment against him, when I was guilty of a mistake as well. I am not sure there will be anything else to update after this. But thank you to everyone who made it this far. And thank you to all the people who took an interest in my life. Comments. Comment 1. If your stepdaughter doesn't want to attend family therapy and isn't really willing to address how toxic and manipulative her mother is, I worry this won't end well. Please make sure you are a good advocate for yourself in this situation. Comment 2. OP, I think you need therapy, especially group therapy, as everyone needs to take responsibility for their words and actions. I think your stepdaughter has a high probability of hurting and betraying you again in the future due to the influence of your husband's nasty ex. I think any meaningful forgiveness is only achieved once responsibility and consequences are fully accepted and understood, and then long-term change is actioned. I think the ex-wife will persist because she can, and she does not respect your husband or you. I think the only way to get her to back off is to make her fear you. From what you have described of the aftermath, I have little faith that any meaningful change will be achieved. Worse, I can only see any sacrifice or cost will be at your expense. Good luck. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.